nearly like new, but we also specialize in water intrusion when there's water sneaking underneath the track and maybe going to your neighbor below, or maybe you're being leaked on. So when you get a chance to give us a call us at 727-493-2644. Keep us in mind whenever your sliders are giving you any trouble. Beacon Windows, 727-493-2644 or www.sliderrepair.com. Don't replace, refurbish. Sliderrepair.com, 727-493-2644. Beacon Windows.
What's the buzz in Tampa Bay? Senior Voice America Radio, a unique morning variety program delivering the latest commentary on politics by host and political analyst Tim Bryce and the up-to-minute happenings of Wall Street. Beyond politics and finance, they scale the scholar's rampart by including topics on religion and nutrition with thought-provoking guests and interviews. Tune in every weekday from 8 to 10 a.m. on this Tan Talk station. Senior Voice America, serving our nation's seasoned citizens for over 4 decades.
Listen to the latest pet trends with benefits on the Pet Buzz every Saturday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. Join pet trendologist Charlotte Reed and veterinarian Dr. Michael Fleck as they talk all things pets. From animal health and wellness, money-saving tips, celebrity gossip, breaking news, and more. Their expert guests are in the know and in the now. To learn more about this unique program and its hosts, tune into the show on the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Are you a writer, inventor? Do you have questions about your intellectual property rights? Well, tune in every Tuesday and Thursday morning at 11 o'clock for Joy on Paper. Once a month, I will have a special guest, the writer's legal eagle, Bill Larson of Larson & Larson, who can answer your questions. Protect your valuable work. Email me your questions to patsy.radio@gmail.com and then listen in every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 a.m. right here on Tampa Bay's Tan Talk Radio Network. That's patsy.radio@gmail.com.
Tee off with On the Tee Florida, Saturdays from 11 to 12 on the Tampa St. Pete Sports Connection Radio Network. From PGA coverage to putt-putt prowess, On the Tee Florida is a PGA fan and a Hacks perfect round of informative, humorous conversation and coverage. Every Saturday, talking golf in Tampa Bay and across the USA. Hit 'em straight with On the Tee Florida, brought to you by Coors Light, Saturdays from 11 to 12.
WTAN is the home of the Bitcoin Radio Show, heard each Saturday from 10 to 11 a.m. Join Professor Robert Thomas and crypto coach Robert R. to learn the basics about buying, spending, and growing wealth with cryptocurrency. We all know that cryptocurrency is the future, and the future is happening now. So join Professor Robert Thomas and Michael R. this Saturday on WTAN and the rest of the Tan Talk Radio Network at 10 a.m. and make your future better than today.
Hey Tampa Bay, Tammy here with the BCC Coupon Book. Tune in during drive time every Thursday, 5 to 6 p.m. on the Tan Talk Radio Network to hear the BCC Coupon Book radio show. We feature local small business owners with great deals for many services and restaurants in our listening area. And anyone interested in branding your business and getting your name out there, give us a call at the BCC Coupon Book, 727-804-6082. Have a great day, Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay's Tan Talk, entertaining and informative radio for the Sunshine State.
Coming up Wednesday, August 24th, the Chapters Network and the Tan Talk Radio Network proudly present from 5 to 6 p.m. Kicking Unhealthy Relationships to the Curb with Stephanie McPhail and Steve Vaccaro. Special guest, Julie Yindra. From 6 to 7 p.m., Voices for Change with Miriam and Gerald. Special guest, Taylor Betts. Then, from 7 to 8 p.m., Reach Out with host, New York Yankees community consultant Ray Negron, Frankie Valli's musical director Robbie Robinson, and psychologist Steve Vaccaro. Special guest Gary Brown, Dwight Gooden, and an exclusive interview with Damon John. Lastly, from 8 to 9 p.m., the Chapters Wrap with special guests Dave Rebels and Steve Malsberg. Special What If segment with Dr. Bonomo. That's coming up Wednesday, August 24th, live on the Chapters Network and the Tan Talk Radio Network.
In the next 30 seconds, a lot will happen at Hofstra. Small things, big things, weird things. The plan and the not so much. The whoa, the wow, The what? We know ideas have the power to change everything. That's why we work for them, reach for them, refine, and rebuild. Ideas are always evolving, and so are we. Hofstra University.
Hey, Steph.
What's going on? How are you?
How you doing?
Pretty good. It's raining here in Texas. How is it in New York?
Beautiful. Beautiful, sunny and 80. This ain't Texas.
80 is nice. 80 is really perfect weather. What's it like in Florida, Floridians? Is it as hot as it is in Texas?
Bobby, are you listening? What's the weather like in the Tan Talk Network there in Clearwater? What's going on over there?
It is sunny, hot, about 92.
Wow.
All right. So you've got hot, no rain. So you're lucky at least on that. Maybe it'll rain in a little bit though. I know that cools everything off.
That's right. That's right. This is Kick Unhealthy Relationships to the Curb. That's Stephanie McPhail. I'm Steve Vaccaro. That was our great engineer, Bobby. And we have Carmine behind the scenes in New York. So it's kind of split. A couple of people in Florida, a couple of people in New York, a couple of people in Texas. This is what it's all about. We hear every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. on Tan Talk Network, 1340 a.m., 1350 a.m., 1400 a.m., FM 106.1, and FM 104.3, tantalknetwork.com. Covers St. Petersburg, Clearwater, and Tampa Bay. It's the 17th largest market in the country, potentially 3.5 million people. We're somebody right now, Steph.
Nice. Look at us. We're moving on up like the Jeffersons.
Moving on up like the Jeffersons. But you know what? I had a little birdie. They told me you went to Hofstra University. That's why this is such a great show tonight.
I went to Hofstra. I spent 2.5 years at Hofstra University getting a double master's degree in health and education about 20 years ago, 21 years ago. So that school definitely holds a special place in my heart for all the great learning and everything that's happened since I graduated from there.
So 20 years ago, I'm trying to figure out your age now. I'll figure it out by the end of the show. I got you pegged.
Actually, maybe it was longer because I started there when I was 21 and maybe I was 23. Yeah, I was 23 and I'm 44 now. So yeah, it was 21 years ago I graduated from there.
So what's your takeaway from Hofstra? What do you take away that experience?
I had some excellent teachers. My professors were really great. They were really focused on giving us information that was going to be cutting edge. And I will tell you that I can't remember her name, but one of my professors was telling us that they were really concerned about there potentially being a pandemic in the near future. And they kept talking about what the reaction would be if there was. And then they talked about healthcare and how that was such a big deal. And now, of course, we know in the past few years, the pandemic obviously going on and then healthcare being such a hot issue. I mean, they were ahead of their time knowing what was coming up and teaching to the future instead of teaching to the past.
Wow. That's unbelievable to predict that. But if you want to join in from Florida, 727-441-3000, we need your voice. We need to hear from you. Our special guest today, Julie Yindra, does amazing work at Hofstra, and you get to know all about her in a few minutes. But how good are you with the solar system? Can you name all the planets?
Oh my gosh, no. I feel like I practiced this with my 6-year-old because he loves it. But
all right, there we go. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Saturn, Jupiter, Uranus, Neptune, and maybe Pluto. Today is Dwarf Pluto Day. I'm not quite sure what that is. Did you know that?
No, I didn't. But is the what is it? The JB Webb, is that seeing all the cool? I was looking at a picture of Jupiter and how you could see the rings around Jupiter with that new telescope and how clear, there's not rings like Saturn, but it's like a glow around Jupiter that they had never really seen before because they didn't have that intense of a telescope.
Can you show us how the rings go around Jupiter again?
Whee!
Okay, all right. Well, you do know your planets, so there you go. But so I think it's something like Dwarf Pluto Day, and
it's the on and off again, whether or not it's an actual planet or it's a moon or it's whatever.
I know
They never
it's
know.
big. It's big controversy on TikTok. You know, you got to check it. Pluto and Pluto has come up with its own TikTok video. You want to check it out?
Yeah, but I'm gonna say I want anyone to call in or comment in the comments if you're watching this live. Are you team Pluto? Are you you team Planet Pluto? Because I am.
I'm all
always
for Pluto, but TikTok, the planet Pluto is troubled by this controversy. It came out with its own video on TikTok. Let's check it out.
nice.
My name is Pluto, an ex-planet of the solar system. I've been demoted to dwarf planet status, so please listen. I used to be the 9th planet in our solar system, but didn't meet the 3 criteria the IAU had written. 1. A planet must be in orbit around our sun. 2. Has the mass to assume hydrostatic equilibrium. 3. It has cleared the neighborhood around its orbit. And that is the reason that I am now a dwarf planet, son. My name is Pluto, an ex-planet of the solar system. I've been demoted to dwarf planet status, so please listen. I was discovered in 1930 by Clyde Tombaugh. He worked as an astronomer from Lola Observatory in Arizona. I was named Pluto by an 11-year-old girl named Benicia Bernie. Pluto was the Roman god of the underworld. Astronomers recently found I'm the biggest dwarf planet around. 736.3 is my radius and I'm brown. My name is Pluto, an ex-planet of the solar system. I've been demoted to dwarf planet status, so please listen. Maybe the IAU will reverse my status to a planet, but for now I'm happy being a dwarf planet, so there you have it.
So, Stephanie, did you learn something about Pluto?
I did. I still, in my mind, it will always be a planet. They can call it whatever they want, but
Well,
I understand the science now.
It's a whole wacky holiday too, and I feel like it's our duty to tell our listeners and viewers out there what these holidays are all about. And today's about Pluto.
There are some weird holidays. You know, there's a holiday every single day. Actually, like a few holidays every single day, and some of them are hysterically funny.
Very funny. Well, I found this funny video about 4:30 in the morning today, so just for our show. So I hope you liked it.
Lucky us.
But Bobby, now you're telling us the weather is cloudy and 89 degrees now. Bobby, can you please get the weather report right?
Yes. It's very simple. I just look out the window as opposed to looking at this computer.
Oh.
And then I get a more accurate weather report. It's amazing.
Well,
that happened to me yesterday. I looked out the window and it said raining, and I looked at my phone and it said it was sunny. I was like, lies. There are lies going in this phone.
Yes. I did that one time. I said sunny and 85 or something, and Lola was driving in rain and called me up and said, you need to go on and change that. So I did.
Well, Bobby, you do a great job. We want the weather forecast every 15 minutes, if you don't mind, okay?
Okay, we'll do. See, the thing about Florida is, have you ever seen all those like memes about how like on one side, like behind your car, it's black, and then in the front, like the sun's shining?
Right.
Well, usually out this window, it's always sunny. And that's why I say that. And then I go over to the office side, and there's like the darkest clouds and a tornado that you ever seen in your life.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Well, you know what? I'm going to be there next week, so hopefully it's going to be sunny and no clouds. And so take care of that, Bobby, okay?
All right, we'll work on it. Yep.
Stand on the right side of the road, Stephen. Then you'll be okay.
There we go. Well, this is Kick on Healthy Relationships to the Curb. You want to chime in, 727-441-3000. But Stephanie, tell everybody about your book.
So I am the author of the #1 new release in codependency called Being Loved Shouldn't Hurt, where I share my story of overcoming the cycle of toxic relationships. And probably even more importantly is how other people can also overcome their own cycle, no matter how long they've been in a toxic relationship, no matter what they've experienced, they can also create their best lives. So it's really meant for inspiration and to let other people know they're not alone and that they can decide today to make the rest of their lives the best of their lives.
Wow. I mean, great work. And our show, we're going to have so many outstanding guests coming up, and I can't wait. And today, Julie Yindra is going to be on our guest, and we have a little promo for her before we bring her on. But Chapters Network, Chapters Community Support Services is the 501c3 nonprofit organization that kind of provides a platform for people that need that platform. It's where unity and diversity meet one chapter at a time through networking, collaboration, support, and this media platform. We have about 15 shows. 80% of our staff currently and board have some sort of challenge or adversity that they're dealing with. And that's so very important to me because as a psychologist, we're not doing this for entertainment. I know we had this whole Pluto thing, and but we also like to have fun, but we also like to empower and provide people a safe platform so they can excel on their strengths and not be targeted for any challenges or weaknesses. How do you feel about that, Steph?
I love the work that this organization does. I'm a really big advocate for, helping others and allowing us to continue that work in the community. I love what we do here.
And you're doing a lot of good work too. You've had some book signings and presentations, virtual, and you got some things coming up, right?
Yeah, I'm actually, this is really cool. I am going to be the keynote speaker for a women's empowerment and leadership event tomorrow. It was kind of cool because I actually just found out yesterday it was supposed to be live in Croatia, which I told them ahead of time I couldn't make it, but it seems like most of the other international speakers were not able to make it either. So they ended up making it completely online. So what's really cool about it is I get to be the person, the keynote speaker who starts off the entire 2-day event. The only negative thing is it's going to be at 7:45 in the morning for me, 8:45 in the morning for Eastern Standard Time. And we can always share the link if anybody wants to watch it live. It is 2 days completely free, women from all over. And there's some men speaking as well, but it's really all about empowerment. And in the next 2 weeks, we're actually going to be sharing our first article for Avaya University. They sent us a message at the beginning of July asking us if we wanted to be one of their panels of experts in helping people heal from codependency. So we're going to be sharing our articles with people like Lisa Romano and other well-known people in the healing from codependency niche. And, we're just really excited to be able to share what we know and be able to share our knowledge with others.
Wow, it's amazing. And correct me if I'm wrong, you seem like you're living the American dream because you started things up. You had a family, you moved from New York to Texas, you have a house, you're working and you're close with your husband. You do a lot of work with your husband and you have children and you're doing all this stuff to help people. And it's just wonderful to see that unfold.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, the road to being an entrepreneur, it's not been easy for sure. There's a lot of learning. There's a lot of ups and downs. And, I'm 100% pro entrepreneurs, but if you are interested in doing that, you have to be ready for a very bumpy ride. I went into this, I just wanted to help people. That's all I wanted to do. And I had to learn marketing and copywriting and all these things that I had no clue about. I got a degree in teaching. So I taught for all these years and I was just able to have kids come into my classroom and teach them. And now, I've had to learn other ways to get my message across to people, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. I'm so happy that I get to work with my husband, that I get to be around for my kids, and just do all this together as a team. It's a great opportunity.
That's wonderful. Before we bring our first guest, our special guest, Julie Yindra, we have a little video to kind of share with our listeners and viewers out there the great work that Julie does at Hofstra.
My name is Julie Yindra, and I am Director of Student Access Services. Student Access Services provides access and support and accommodations for students with disabilities, but we also interact with the broader community. One of the things that we do is we make sure that we are communicating with students as early on as possible through admitted students days, new student orientations in the summer, include, for a student who has disclosed a disability, a meeting with our office so that we can, before the semester begins, collect the documentation, approve accommodations, and make sure everything is in place before the student arrives for welcome week to start their semester. There's a wide array of accommodations, including free of charge to the student, an array of assistive technologies that we can offer to students to help them with. We have note-taking accommodations that are specialized software. We have dictation software, screen reading software, and all those kinds of things that we can actually provide to a student if we feel it's going to help them be successful in their college environment. The other thing that we do is we do offer optional, more comprehensive support programs that students can opt into. Two of those programs are called PALS and Academic Coaching. And in those programs, a student meets on a regular basis one-on-one with a staff member who is trained to help students develop more effective time management, organizational strategies, learning strategies, more information about how to effectively use the assistive technologies. And sometimes students, when they first enter college, have never had to self-advocate. So one of the things that we do to help our students making that transition to adulthood and to college is to help by teaching students those effective self-awareness and self-advocacy skills. So there's a wide range of things. And one of the other things that we do in our office is we help faculty and administrators with disability-related questions or concerns. So we are the go-to office on our campus for, hey, I'm setting up a field trip for my class, and I'm wondering what I need to be aware of in order to make sure that all of the students in my class have equal access to the material and to the experience of the trip. So there's a wide range of things that we do like that. One of the most common accommodations for a student with a disability is to alter the manner in which they take an exam. And we have so many students that are utilizing testing accommodations at Hofstra University that we actually have a testing center that is a dedicated facility that's set up like a computer lab. And one of my full-time staff members is the testing accommodations manager for every student, for every class that they might be taking, whatever that might be, that the appropriate testing accommodations are provided in our facility so that professors don't have to worry about, oh, how do I make this test with larger print? Or how am I going to make sure that the student has extra time if he needs it because there's another class in my classroom right after mine ends? So we take the onus off of the faculty and provide all of those services within our facility. And all the student needs to do is to, at first, in the beginning of the semester, provide the accommodation letter to the professor and discuss the accommodations that they need, including testing accommodations. And then in advance of each exam that's coming, to notify our office to fill out a form and have the professor sign off on it so that we can then collect the exam from the professor and set up the exam experience with the accommodations that they need. My advice to you as Hofstra parents is to begin opening the dialogue with your student about the specific scope and nature of their disability, the support services that they've used in the past and how they've been helpful, to allow us to carry that on with the student and continue that conversation so that the student is not in a situation where they've never had a conversation about understanding what their accommodations are and how their accommodations help them be successful in and out of the classroom. Another thing that you can do is to encourage your students to utilize the support services like our office that are here at Hofstra. And instead of when the student calls home and says, I don't know what to do about getting extra time on this test, instead of contacting our office yourself, encourage your student to contact us and ask those questions of us. Student Access Services is in the Student Center in Suite 107 behind the bookstore. Our phone number is 516-463-7075. Our fax number, if you have to fax us something, is 516-463-7070. And our email address is samapplesam@hofstra.edu.
Amazing, right?
That's such great work. I love it. I love that there's so many options for students to really succeed.
That's right. That's right. Before we bring Julie Yindra on, let's talk a little bit about her. Miss Yindra arrived at Hofstra in 2009. Prior to coming to Hofstra, she was Director of Disability Services at Greensboro College. But before beginning her career in higher education, she was a special ed teacher for 8 years at the middle school, high school levels. As a director of SAS, she met with students to review their requests for reasonable accommodations and help them solve disability-related issues. Miss Yindra earned a BA English from Guilford College and a Master's in Education and Special Education from the University of North Carolina. In her free time, she likes the movie. She's a movie buff and likes to travel. When not at work at Hofstra, she often travels doing disability-related nonprofit services, community efforts. Julie, unbelievable career. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Steve. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be with you. I know that we met when I was doing one of my sideshows, which is working in the nonprofit sector. We met at the Spina Bifida Walk and Roll in Eisenhower Park, raising money for the Spina Bifida Association of New York.
Yes, and Joe Salonica is a mutual friend of ours. Talk about Joe for a moment.
Joe is a fabulous guy. He is the adaptive sports king of Long Island. If I have any questions at all about adaptive sports for individuals with disabilities, Joe is my go-to guy. He is fun and hardworking and encourages his students at the Viscardi School. And, he travels around with competitive sports teams. Wheelchair basketball. He does all kinds of really cool things. And I think he's a fantastic mentor for younger people with disabilities.
That's right. He is a wonderful person. And Stephanie, you went to Hofstra, so this is probably really great to hear all this stuff going on.
I didn't know that if this existed back when I went 21 years ago. I don't know if Julie, you've had a hand in helping to make it more accessible to people in the community get access to all of this stuff.
Well, funny you should mention it. Funny you should mention it, because I've got to tell you, Hofstra has a very long historical legacy of being open and welcoming to individuals of all different types of abilities. In fact, Hofstra, I bet you don't know, was the first private university in the entire country to become fully wheelchair accessible.
Wow, I did not know that.
It happened in the late 1960s and early 70s when they were building the north side of campus and expanding Hofstra to become a more comprehensive 4-year university with residential facilities. And there were, it was just sort of a magic thing where there was all the right people in the room at the right time. And they said, as long as we're going to build all of these facilities, let's make them all wheelchair accessible. And part of the reason for that was a guy named Henry Viscardi, who started a school here on Long Island for individuals with significant physical disabilities a long time ago, when students like them and students like me didn't go to school. There was no school for us. We were homebound. And so Henry Viscardi started a school. It's now in Albertson. And it is still, graduating students. And Henry Viscardi came to some friends at Hofstra University when they were making plans to build a whole new side of campus and said, hey, look, I have this great high school and these kids are graduating from high school. The problem is there's nowhere for them to go to college.
Well, you bring up Dr. Viscardi. I'm sorry, Julie. You bring up Dr. Viscardi. That's where I met Joe. I was a supervisor for one of the programs at Viscardi and Abilities. And in that building, they've preserved Dr. Viscardi's office. That you could see the office he was working at. He was a genius. He was the go-to person for all the presidents for all the challenged people in wheelchairs that needed vocational training or assistance or empowerment. He was the man that paved the way for so many people. So it's such a blessing for you to acknowledge that today.
Absolutely. And, it just was fortuitous that he was friendly with a couple of folks at Hofstra during this time. And they said, well, and so to this day, every year, students that are graduating from Biscardi start their academic careers at Hofstra, their higher education careers at Hofstra. So it's a relationship that continues to this day. And so that answers your question. And we also were one of the first schools in the country in the late 70s and early 80s to establish comprehensive support programs for students with non-apparent disabilities like learning disabilities and ADHD. Right. And I am continuing that legacy by launching this coming year a specific comprehensive support program for students on the autism spectrum.
Oh, that is unbelievable. That's why I got to meet with you, because you're doing so many great things. And for our listeners out there in Florida on Tan Talk Network, please call in 727-441-3000. Explain to people. I ask this question to Joe all the time. Despite your challenges, Joe Salonica, who is a spina bifida, he's in a wheelchair. I'm going to ask you, Julie, how'd you overcome your challenges, and what gives you the passion to help others in the way you do?
Well, that's also an interesting story. My parents, when I was born in 1962, my parents were not given any hope that I was going to be able to do much of anything with my life. There was no school for kids like me when I was born. There was no in-home, now we have all kinds of rehabilitation services and in-home nursing care for students and personal care attendants and accessibility and employment initiatives. Then there was no such thing. And 5 years after I was born, my younger brother David was born, and he also had spina bifida. And so my parents, at a time when there was really nothing out there, my parents raised 2 kids with spina bifida. And what they knew that for me, as a person with a physical disability, education was going to be the key for me. So they always pushed me in terms of education. They never said to me when I was a child, if you go to college. They always said, when you go to college, because they knew that I needed a career that was probably going to require a college education. And boy, were they right? I mean, I liked education so much. I've been in it my whole life, right? I never left. So, I think I have to attribute that to my parents. And also, my parents were very bold about making sure that I had a life that was as normalized as possible. I did chores. I studied abroad. I participated in the neighborhood. I was told to go outside and play with the neighborhood kids, just like everybody else, right? There was none of this. They were not as protective, I think, as some parents tend to be, out of love and out of concern. But I think my parents knew that the way to create an independent person with a disability was to create a person who would be resilient and could fall and screw up and get up and brush themselves off and do it again, right? So I have to attribute a lot of that to my parents and the way that I was raised.
Wow. This is Kick Unhealthy Relationships to the Curb. That's Stephanie McPhail. I'm Steve Vaccaro. We're in Tan Talk Network. If you want to join in, please do at 727-441-3000. We're across 1340 AM, 1350 AM, 1400 AM, FM 106.1, and FM 104.3. So I want to thank everybody in Clearwater, Tampa Bay, and St. Petersburg, and Bobby behind the glass, and Carmine doing what he does. So, Julie, did you ever have a why me moment?
Sure. Absolutely. We all do, right? We all do, whether we have disabilities or not, right? We all have things that happen to us in our lives and go, why does this have to happen to me? But My situation was a little bit different. I didn't have a lot of time for the why me thing, because don't forget, 5 years after I was born, my parents had another child, David, with spina bifida, whose disability was a lot more medically involved and a lot more severe than my condition. And so who am I to complain, right? Every time I would start to go, I would look at David and go, I can't complain. Look at, every time I do something, I know he's watching me, right? So I know as I'm growing up, if I don't try to go, to regular school, he's not going to do it. If I don't try to get a driver's license, I know he's not going to do it. If I don't try to go to college, I know he's not going to do it. So my situation was just a tiny bit different, I would imagine, than most people's. And also, my parents were not, they didn't go, oh, poor Julie, she's got this challenge. My parents were very pragmatic, and they said, let's figure out how you're going to maximize your opportunities and maximize, your activities in things that you are going to excel in. They encouraged me not to waste a lot of time and energy banging my head against the wall trying to be somebody I wasn't. Right.
Wow.
And they just said, let's find your path, right? Let's find the things that you're gifted in, and let's, encourage you in every possible way. I mean, my parents, think about it. I had a physical disability, and in the early 1980s, they sent me abroad to Europe for a semester to study abroad, right? Now, there's no such thing as a credit card. There's no such thing as the internet. There's no such thing as the cell phone. There's no email. So they literally put me on a plane in September and didn't see me again and hear from me till December.
Wow. What do you think, Stephanie?
That's impressive. That's really impressive. And it says a lot about your parents to allow you to do that, because I'm listening to your story and I'm thinking about other stories that we've heard from other people that were born with reasons to say, hey, I can't do it. And their parents did the same thing. They said, nope, you're blind, but we're going to make you act, do the things that a seeing person would do, or you can't walk, but we're going to do the things that other people do. And we're not going to use that as excuses. How do you think that has helped you be a better mentor to some of the kids that you work with when maybe they're feeling that like, maybe I can't do it? Like, do you feel like that helps you motivate them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a really good question too. And that serves me very well in my line of work, because number one, I know that students know that I can relate to their experience and they can relate to my experience. And so the first thing that I do with my students is I open up to them and expose my vulnerabilities to them and say, I didn't do very well in school for a long time either, because I made mistakes, right? And here's what I did. And here are the things I wish I had done differently. And here's the advice I'm going to give you. So I will say to them, this is how I managed. And you are, you're going to make mistakes. The path to success is not a straight line, right? So it does help me. It also, I have to tell you, Stephanie, it also helps me that when I have students that come into my office that go, I can't do this because I have a disability. I can say things to them maybe that other people might not feel comfortable saying, like, homie, don't play that game in my office, right? No, don't give me this stuff about, no, you can't do this because you have a disability. What I have to teach students is that it's not that you can't do X, Y, and Z. You may have to do X, Y, and Z differently than the way other people do it. And your job is to figure out what that way is.
And that's such a gift to be able to share that with them. And not only that, but I think that probably gives, they really can be inspired by you, is to know what you've accomplished, what you've done. And Hofstra was not an easy school. So you don't go to that school because you're not intelligent. So obviously they're smart coming to this school. So, I love the reminder that you get to give them, like, hey, you got into this really great college, really great university. So obviously you've got the brains. Now we just have to figure out how to kind of change things because you're going to have to live in this world. So what can you do to live in this world in a way that's going to be the best for you so that you can succeed?
Exactly. And, it's really important for students to understand, I get the sense sometimes that in this generation and the previous generation, a lot of people have been, reticent to be real with their kids about their challenges because they don't want them to feel labeled, or they don't want them to feel bad about themselves. So they try to protect them, and they try not to talk about the disability. But to me, you got to put your cards out on the table, right? You got to acknowledge. So I'm gonna tell you a story about what happened to me when I was a kid. Another story about my parents. My dad, when I finally did go to school, I went to first grade, and one day I came home from school after a day when the teacher said to the class the same thing a lot of first grade teachers say to their students: kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? Right? And oddly enough, it was in that moment that it was the first time that I recognized that I was different from every other kid in the class. And I was really concerned about this. And people were raising their hand and saying, I want to be a football player, and I want to be this, and I want to be that. And so I was scratching my head because I was realizing that there was a lot of things that they were talking about that I didn't think I could do. So when I went home, when my dad came home from work, he said, how was school? And I said, it was okay. He said, why? What's the matter? And I said, well, they asked us what we wanted to be when we grew up. And he said, yeah. And I said, well, Dad, there's a lot of things I can't do. What can I do when I grow up? And my father says to me, anything you damn well please, but seeking a career as a ballerina would be inadvisable. So my parents were, they were encouraging, and they were, they gave me every possible advantage and opportunity that they could, but they also didn't sugarcoat things, right? They were like, no, you're not going to be a professional dancer. This is not in the cards. So let's go down another path, right? Mm-hmm. So they were very practical. And, sometimes I talk to my students about that. Sometimes a student comes into my office and I will say to him, tell me about your disability. And he'll say, well, I have a learning disability and I'm really, really bad at math. And then I'll say, so what's your major? And he'll say business. And I'm like, okay, let's talk about that for a minute. You got business calculus, business statistics, accounting, right? Let's talk about the math requirements. I mean, are you sure this is what you want to do, right? Because sometimes when students come into my office and they're upset because they're not doing well, and they feel like a failure, what I say to them is, you haven't failed to achieve your dream because you're a failure. The problem is you've chosen the wrong dream. Let's pick another one.
Stephen Hawking, when he didn't know he was that sick yet, from what I remember of the story, but he knew he wanted to get his doctorate. And of course, his family wanted him to be a physician. And he was like, I don't know. I don't think I want to be a physician. I think I want to be something else. And, he went on to be a physicist.
Mm-hmm. A brilliant physicist.
And, you think all the time, had he gone on to be a physician, he would have been out of work. He would have had nothing to do. Like there was no big thing he would have left for the world. But because he followed what he knew he needed to do and became a physicist, I mean, up until his last breath, all he was doing was giving this great information and sharing that with the world that he could have never done had he not gone that direction.
Yes. The man was one of the greatest minds of our time, right? And you're right. He chose a path that allowed him to exercise his gifts, right? Wow. And that was a very smart thing to do. And that's what I try to get my students to do. Choose a path that lets you exercise your gifts and explore your passions.
Well, Julie, we have a superstar on our network. Her name is Ashley Blum. She hosts her own show. She is actually coming to Hofstra in your backyard.
I met her a few weeks ago.
Yes. Well, guess what? Ashley is backstage. We're going to bring her on right now. And Ashley, say hello to Julie. And Julie,
hi, surprise!
Ashley, oh my God, we are so excited that Ashley.
Good to talk to you again.
Yeah, you too. And I know you emailed me and called the office. Don't worry, I'll get back to you.
It's okay. You're good. You're good.
So
Ashley, I got to tell you, Steve, since Ashley is here, I have to tell you, one of the things I admire most in young people is that when they are mature enough to be proactive about advocating for what they need. And Ashley reached out to me early on and said, you know, here's my deal. I need to come out to campus and we need to go look at my classrooms. And there's some things I'm going to need. Do you know how mature that is? I mean,
thank you.
No, really, seriously, I mean it. I mean, this is a skill that's going to serve you for the rest of your life.
No
yeah,
doubt.
I've always been the kind of person to advocate for myself when I was younger. I mean, so for the viewers who don't know, I was born with no vision in my right eye. I wear a prosthetic, and obviously, so I don't have that great vision that some people have. So my whole life, I was telling teachers that I needed to sit in the front. I need a bigger print. I can't use a Scantron. And I always had a 504 plan, a plan that helps your teachers aware of that, be aware of those disabilities. But the reality is in elementary school and high school, some teachers don't actually read that or take the time to understand that. So it's very important as someone with a disability, even though mine isn't visible, that I stand up and advocate for myself and say, hey, you might not have seen my letter, but this is what I need. So I'm going to hopefully carry that on in college.
And Ashley, you're already wearing that. Go ahead, Julie. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I have a sneaking suspicion that you're going to do very, very well.
Thank you. I hope so.
And you're already wearing the Hofstra colors.
I am. I found this shirt at the store, and it's not Hofstra merch, but I loved it, and I had to wear it because I'm repping the spirit.
There you go. Ashley is an amazing young woman. You guys are so unbelievable. You're going to love what she can do in the classroom and beyond. But Ashley, she hosts her own show. If you had a question for Julie, what would you ask her?
Goodness. Well, I have a lot of questions for Julie, but I guess my number one question, and I ask it to a lot of people who've gone through disabilities, but I am really curious to see what you would say, is how do you continue when it does get hard? Because I know you spoke earlier about how you didn't really have time to sit on the why me moments, but the reality is when we have a disability, there are some things that we can't do, like you were saying. So when you come across that, what's your mindset in that moment?
To be really honest with you, the way that I handle that is I focus on somebody else. I have always believed that one of the things that gets us through the tough times is knowing that no matter how down in the dumps we might feel, there's somebody out there who needs what we have. And so what I tend to do is find somebody who needs what I have to give them at that moment. And I forget all about my own self, my own troubles. I get myself totally into providing what another person needs.
Wow. You know what's interesting? This show is called Kick on Healthy Relationships to the Curb, but this is so healthy that I can't get over myself. Stephanie, we might have to change the name of this show.
Well, I mean, I think I'm hoping that for people listening that might have an idea that, someone with disabilities can't do what other people do, let's kick that thought to the curb. Let's get that negative thoughts that people might have, that pre-existing thought they might have, and say, hey, let's get rid of that negative feeling that we have and realize that everyone has the ability to give back to the world, to give back to the community. And just like Julie said, we just have to figure out in what capacity that is.
Wow. This is Kicking Healthy Relationships to the Curb. That's Stephanie McPhail. I'm Steve Vaccaro. We're here every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's our special guest, Julie Yindra from Hofstra University. We're on Tan Talk Network, 1340 AM, 1350 AM, 1400 AM, 106.1 FM, and 104.3 FM. If you want to join in, please do it, 727-441-3000. And Ashley, when you talk to Julie, and Julie, you talk to Ashley, I mean, you guys are going to have a lot of great things happen at Hofstra over the next couple of years. I can feel it.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, from the moment I met Julie, I knew that she was going to be in my corner. She has that kind of personality. Like, she gave me a tour of campus and showed me where all my classes were going to be so we could see what the best areas would be for me to sit in, like what desk would be good. And as we were walking, everyone's saying hi to her. She's asking people how they are. Everybody loves Julie. And so I'm really excited to get to work with her. And I know that her and the rest of the staff in the accommodations office are going to be in my corner and in the corner of everyone who has a disability, people who have smaller disabilities than me and bigger ones than me. And I'm really excited to be able to accomplish all that I want and get the degree I want despite the disability that I have. I think that it's so important for every kid to get an even playing field. So I can't wait to be a part of it.
And Ashley, how important it is to, last couple of years you've been on the network doing amazing work. How important it is to have a camera in front of you and a microphone in front of you to share your knowledge and experience to help inspire others?
Well, I always think that different perspectives are good. And as a teenager, I don't think that a lot of teens are willing to speak up about what our generation needs and what we think needs to be spoken about. So it's really important to me to be that voice for some kids and even young adults and adults who might be a bit quieter, especially when it comes to mental health, anti-bullying, and disability advocacy, because I've experienced the anxiety, I've experienced bullying, I've experienced having a disability. So being able to use my own experiences to hopefully inspire someone and tell them, hey, you're not alone. Look at me. I can do it. So can you. Just like Julie's mindset. That's my whole world. I never want to stop doing that. No matter what degree I get and whatever I end up doing as a career, I always want to inspire people and show them that they're not alone.
Wow. I mean, well said. And
Thank
Julie, what advice would you give to young freshmen that are coming to Hofstra in a couple of weeks right now?
I would say, first of all, be who you are, learn about yourself, what you're good at, what challenges you have, how you navigate the world, and don't be afraid to engage in what I call help-seeking behavior. Because I think a lot of kids, when they're 18 years old, they live under this myth that they think that everyone is going to expect them to know everything. Right? And they don't want to admit when they don't know something. So I tell all my students, the greatest thing you can do for yourself as you're starting college is be willing to go to someone and say, I don't know what to do with this and I have a question and I need help, right? Help-seeking behavior is absolutely critical. And also know that there's going to be some things in college that you're going to do very well, where you're going to excel, and some things that are going to be difficult and some things that you're not going to do well. So be ready and willing to, like I referenced earlier, fail, fall over, get up, brush yourself off, and do it again.
Wow. And Ashley, taking notes?
I'm trying. I definitely agree with all of it. I'm nervous, but I'm really excited. And I love what you said about the help-seeking behaviors, because there was a time in middle school and high school, even for me, where I was afraid to admit that I didn't know something because I wanted to seem like I was perfect in some capacity, but none of us are perfect. And I'll never forget, my mom is very well spoken, very outgoing, and very strong-minded. And she sat me down one day and she told me, if you have a question in class, don't be afraid to say something. And I said, well, Mom, I don't want to seem like I don't know anything and I don't want to disturb the class or the teacher. And she said, you shouldn't care about that, because if you don't know it, you need to know it. And everyone probably has the same question as you. So from that point on, I started raising my hand every 5 seconds in class a bit and not being afraid to say, hey, I have no idea what just happened on that board. Please explain it again. And a lot of times kids would come up to me and say, I didn't get it either. Thank you so much for asking, because I was too afraid to ask. And that's kind of where it sparked it for me on advocating for others. And the help-seeking behavior, being able to own up to the fact that we're not perfect, is so important. So Thank you for that advice. That's really true.
Steve and Stephanie, have you noticed something, that there's a trend going on here, that parenting plays a crucial role in how people with disabilities perceive themselves and perceive their opportunities in the world?
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing to point out. And that's the reason why we do what we do, right? Is to advocate and to empower parents, empower communities and kids to really band together and understand those deficits. There's a lot of strengths that each person has, and the parental support and love is instrumental. Ashley, thank you for joining us for a few moments.
Thank you, guys. It was so good seeing you, Julie. Good to see you,
Ashley.
Stephanie.
See you soon.
See you guys soon.
Bye-bye. Ashley Blum, superstar from day one. But before we go, I have two quick questions here. Your favorite place to travel?
Oh, Lord. Okay, so my happy place, I was just there last week, to be honest with you. My happy place is Cape Cod, Massachusetts. We used to vacation there when I was a kid. And when I was a teenager, my parents bought a house there. When my dad retired, they moved to Cape Cod. My mom still lives there. I was visiting with her last week. And it's just a beautiful place. You may know that during the Kennedy administration, much of the land of Cape Cod was designated as national seashore. So nobody can build on it.
Wow.
Nobody can put up billboards. Nobody can pollute it. I mean, so it has lots and lots of land that's really untouched. So it kind of, for lots of reasons, has been one of my happy places.
And last question, unless Stephanie has one. Favorite movie?
Oh, man. Okay. So I am a movie whack-a-nut, and I firmly believe that the greatest American film ever made has the famous line, "Leave the gun, take the cannoli." You guys know what that one is?
Is that
The Godfather?
The Godfather. Yes, The Godfather. Okay. All right. That's great. Real quick, Julie, how can people get a hold of you?
They can get a hold of me at Hofstra University at julie.yindra, Yindra, at hofstra.edu. And my number at my office is 516-463-7075. Please call. Please, engage with me. I'm happy to talk to people. I'm happy to answer questions. I'm happy to mentor young kids. So, feel free to reach out.
Thank you so much, Julie. You're a blessing, and we're so thankful they came on our show tonight.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure anytime, Steve.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nice to meet you, Stephanie.
Nice to meet you too, Julie. Thank you for all the work that you're doing. We love it.
Before Florida says goodbye to us, Bobby, what is the weather in Florida?
WTAN, Clearwater.
We lost them already.
Oh, we lost them already.
I'm being told it's cloudy and 79 degrees in Florida.
Thunderstorms.
And everything was fine until you said something.
Oh, my fault. Texas sent Florida thunderstorms and cold and cooler weather, but he'll be happy when he leaves later on when he's done with work.
Yeah, but Stephanie, everything was fine until you said something. Then you did this whole thing with Jupiter and stuff. I don't know what you're doing over there.
The power, it's all here.
But Stephanie, Julie is an amazing person, right?
I love it. I love what's going on with all the work that she's doing, the advocating and helping people that might feel voiceless to ask questions and, to be able to hear Ashley's story of being from the time she was in middle school, being able to advocate for herself. I think that whether you have a disability or not, I think that is such an important trait to have, to be able to speak up for yourself. So,
That's right.
Thank you to everybody who's helping give voice to the voiceless.
That's right. Well, Stephanie, thank you so very much. Enjoy your evening. Be safe, and we'll see you next week with another amazing guest.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.